Hi there, and welcome to tonight's campfire program. My name is Morgan Gunther, and I'm a naturalist with the East Bay Regional Park District. And I'm so happy to have you here today joining us by the campfire, even when we can't be at a campground together. It's the unofficial start of summer, and we're so happy to have you here in the East Bay Regional Parks. Tonight, for our campfire program, we're going to be nature detectives, learning to spot those animal signs that are out there, even when we don't see the animals. We're going to be singing songs. You can eat s'mores if you want. And we're going to be having a ton of fun learning about everything that the East Bay Regional Park District has to offer. So settle back and enjoy. So the East Bay Regional Park District is an amazing place with 73 different parks. If you have been to Tilden Regional Park, I want you to put your hand on your head. If you have been to Ardenwood before, and maybe you have seen one of the sheep, I want you to baa like a sheep. Bah. If you've been in a redwood park, go ahead and make a nice redwood tree. If you have been to Big Break before, I want you to look out at the view. If you've been to Coyote Hills and you have learned about the Ohlone people who have been living on this land for over 10,000 years, I want you to put your hand on your heart. If you have enjoyed a park or an outdoor space in the last few months, I want you to give a thumbs up. So we're so happy to have you here in the East Bay Regional Parks. Like I said, there are 73 different parks with something for everybody. Playgrounds, lakes, rivers, creeks. There's the San Francisco Bay, these amazing redwood trees. And there are over 120,000 acres of land to explore and over 1,200 miles of trails. So there's a lot to explore, and we're just gonna get started this evening. So we've got a lot to do tonight, so let's get started. So in all of our East Bay Regional Parks, we have so many different animals and so many different animals that call this place home. And there's a couple different things that all animals need in order to call a place home. So what are some of the things that animals need? They need food, shelter, and water. And they can find those in lots of different places, from rivers to lakes to oceans to forests. Right now we're here in a redwood forest. We have so many different habitats throughout the East Bay. And this song sings a little bit about how every animal needs to have a habitat, including us as human beings. So the way this song goes, I'm gonna sing one line and then I'm gonna have you all at home sing right back to me. So we're gonna go ahead and the song goes, habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. All right, go ahead. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. And then we sing that 2 more times. So habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. And then it switches and it goes, you have to have a habitat to carry on. All right, go ahead. You have to have a habitat to carry on. So now that we've got the chorus, there's going to be some different verses where I'm going to sing different habitats. And maybe you've actually even sung this song along with me before. And you can clap along as we do the different habitats, or you can even sing along with the lyrics there. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat. You have to have a habitat to carry on. Now, what is a habitat? Where whales and sharks and squid and octopus and otters, where do they all live? They live in the ocean. The ocean is a habitat, a very special habitat. It's where the deepest water's at. It's where our biggest mammal's at. It's where our future food is at. It keeps the atmosphere intact. The ocean is a habitat that we depend on. All together, habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, you have to have a habitat to carry on. Now, what is a habitat that has things like deer and bear and banana slugs and raccoons and squirrels and owls, and I'm sitting in one right now? That's a forest. The forest is a habitat, a very special habitat. It's where the tallest trees are at. It's where a bear can scratch its back. It keeps the ground from falling back, renews the oxygen. In fact, the forest is a habitat that we depend on all together. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, you have to have a habitat to carry on. Now, what is a habitat? Where it flows down mountains or hills, and there's sometimes turtles in there, and fish, and otters, and lots of animals come to drink from it. That is a river. The river is a habitat, a very special habitat. It's where the freshest water's at for people, fish, and dusky wood rats. But when the people dump their trash, the river takes the biggest rap. The river is a habitat that we depend on all together. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, you have to have a habitat to carry on. People are different than foxes and rabbits, affect the whole world with all their habits. Better to love it while we still have it, or rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat, our habitat's gone. All together one last time. Habitat, habitat, have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, 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 have to have a habitat, you have to have a habitat to carry on. Give yourself a hand. All right, my friends. So we've learned that there are lots of different habitats, and tonight we're going to be talking about all the different animals that live in these habitats. And some of these animals can seem a little bit scary sometimes, but nothing out here in our forests is interested, or in our lakes or our rivers is interested in hurting you. In fact, this is their home as well. So the next song that we're going to sing is all about how animals are not out there to eat us. And this song is called Bats Eat Bugs. And so I'm going to teach you the motions to this song. And then we're going to sing it together, and we're going to sing about some of the different animals that maybe we might be a little bit afraid of. So the way that this song goes is it goes, bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. All right, sing that with me. Bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. And that's why they're flying up there. And that's why they're flying up there. Excellent. So we're going to sing that several times. And if you remember the motions, great. If not, no big deal. And you can make up motions for some of those other animals. All right, get those hands up and ready to do their motions. Bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. That's why they're flying up there. Now what's something that howls at the moon? Ow! A coyote. Coyotes eat rabbits, they don't eat people. Coyotes eat rabbits 'cause you're too big to bite. Coyotes eat rabbits, they eat rabbits for dinner. That's why they're out at night. All together. Bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. That's why they're flying up there. Now, something that slithers in the grass. That's right, snakes. Snakes eat mice, they don't eat people. Snakes eat mice, that's why they're on the ground. Snakes eat mice, 'cause you're too big to swallow, but they don't want you hanging around. All together, bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. That's why they're flying up there. Now, this is an animal that we do not have around here anymore, but can sometimes be kind of scary, and that's a bear. And they don't eat us either. Bears eat berries, they don't eat people. Bears eat berries, they don't eat you or me. Bears eat berries, but they'll steal your dinner, so you better hang it high in a tree. All together, bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. That's why they're flying up there. You know what? Nothing out there wants to eat you. Nothing out there wants to eat you. Nothing out there wants to make you its meal. Nothing out there eats people for dinner, 'cause you know how sick they would feel. One last time. Bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. Bats eat bugs, they eat insects for dinner. That's why they're flying up there. Excellent. I would argue that maybe insects like mosquitoes sometimes do want to eat you, but that's another verse. You can make up your own verses. So the next song that we are going to sing has to do with one of the clues that animals leave behind that let us know we're out there even when we don't see them. And we're actually going to be listening to some of these sounds tonight as we become nature detectives. And this song is pretty simple, because all you need to do is when I say the name of an animal at the end of the verse, you're going to make the sound of that animal 2 times. So I might say something like, "And the owl that you can hear." And then you're going to make that sound 2 times. Woohoo, woohoo, or whatever your owl sounds like. So when you make that sound, make sure you listen up, because you'll get to sing some of those different sounds over and over again. And you can sing along as you start to learn the melody. If you go into the night, there's music in the night, calling out a song that's clear. A nighttime pal is the great horned owl with a song that you can hear, and the owl that you can hear. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. If you go into the night, there's music in the night, calling out a song that's clear. Down in the bog, there's a million frogs with a song that you can hear, and the frogs that you can hear. Ribbit, ribbit. And the owl that you can hear. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. If you go into the night, there's music in the night, calling out a song that's clear. Down in the thickets there are some crickets with a song that you can hear, and the crickets that you can hear. Chirp, 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 chirp. And the frogs that you can hear. And the owl that you can hear. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. If you go into the night, there's music in the night, calling out a song that's clear. The musical note of the lone coyote is a song that you can hear, and the coyote that you can hear. Oh! And the crickets that you can hear. Chirp, 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 chirp. And the frogs that you can hear. Ribbit, ribbit. And the owl that you can hear. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. If you go into the night, there's music in the night, calling out a song that's clear. The silent wonder of the people's hearts is a song that you can hear, and the silence that you can hear. And the coyote that you can hear, yip yip, oh! And the crickets that you can hear, chirp 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 chirp. And the frogs that you can hear, ribbit 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 ribbit. And the owl that you can hear, hoo hoo hoo. And the silence that you can hear. All right, so thank you all so much for singing along with our songs. And now it is time for us to become nature detectives. So now that we have learned a little bit about the different habitats that are out there in the East Bay, we've learned about some of the different sounds that the animals make, and that no animals are out there that are trying to hurt us. We're now going to become nature detectives, and we're going to search for animal signs. Tonight is all about the fact that even though we can't see them, animals are still out there, and if we just look hard enough, we can see those signs left behind. So the way that this is going to work today is I'm going to show you some pictures of scat or tracks or different things that animals leave behind. And then we might listen to some sounds, and then what we'll do is we'll see a screen that looks like this. And when you see this screen all together, you'll get up your scientific finger and you'll say in a nice British accent, "By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a," and whatever animal you think it is based on the clues that we've looked at, then you're gonna yell that out. So let's go ahead and practice it all together. And when we get to the "it is a," you can just yell out whatever animal you want. So ready? 1, 2, 3. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a llama. It's not gonna be a llama. So all of the animals that we're gonna be looking at today, all of the evidence and clues, they're all animals that live in our East Bay Regional Park. Some of them are more common than others. So we've got a whole range of different things. So let's go ahead and get started. So this first piece of evidence, when you look at it, you're walking along the trail and it looks just like a fern, no big deal. But then you notice that there is something that is chewed on it. The ends of it have been chewed off. Now this animal likes to eat plants, and sometimes it eats ferns in our forest. Now, it leaves behind scat that one might say looks a little bit like raisinets. That's kind of a gross analogy, but it's true. And if you look at it, you can see, does it remind you of any scat you've seen before? Maybe a rabbit or a goat, or like a really small version of horse scat. Now, this is a term that I like to use when I'm thinking about, does it eat meat? Does the animal eat meat, or does it eat plants? If it's a plant eater, it's usually a plopper. So its scat comes out in little plops, kind of like this scat right here. The other kind of scat comes out in pinches. So we've got pinchers and ploppers. And if it's a plopper, it's a plant eater. If it's a pincher, it's typically a meat eater. And if it's a mix of a pinch and a plop, it might be somewhere in between and what it eats as well. Our pincher plopper mixes typically lend themselves towards more pinchers. So if you look at this, pincher or plopper, it's a plopper. So we know that it eats plants. So let's go ahead and let's look at the tracks of this animal. So you can see it has these characteristic two-toed tracks. And this animal, when you get up, when you see them, they're pretty common. We can actually see them in the East Bay Hills. We see them in meadows. We see them all over the place. It's one of the more common things, and sometimes even crossing roads. And sometimes you'll actually see signs telling you that this animal is crossing the road. All right, so we've seen a couple of different pieces of evidence. Ready? By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a deer. If you guessed deer, you were right. So this is a black tailed deer, which is the kind of deer that we have in our East Bay Hills. If you've seen a deer before, put up some antlers right now. Yeah, so deer are a pretty common animal, and they are plant eaters, and they are one of those things that you're likely to see in a park. Even if it's daylight, you might see these animals. All right, you all did an excellent job on that one, so let's go ahead and let's see this one. Now, this might not look like very much, but if you look up close, you can see it's almost like a little tower right in the middle there with all that redwood duff all around. And this animal actually builds its home out of things it finds, and it camouflages really well. And if you look, you can actually see inside of its burrow, it is silk lined. And that might be a little bit of a hint for you. And these animals live inside these burrows. They almost never come out of them. And they build them, and they'll come out to hunt. They'll just kind of come out and grab food. So these are carnivores. I've actually never seen their scat before, but they're probably pinchers. So let's go ahead. That's all I'm going to give you. You were so good at deer. This is all I'm going to give you. So we know they build these burrows, and they have silk-lined burrows, those towers. All right, you ready? By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a spider. So this is a California turret spider. And California turret spiders can be found on kind of stream banks and also on trail sides. And these turret spiders can live up to 16 years, and they live inside these burrows. And once you start to see them, when you see one, you'll start to see a bunch of them, because even a trail is a formidable enough barrier that they don't cross it because they can dry out really easily. So they really only leave their burrows a few times to mate and to make their new burrows after they hatch from their egg. So this is one of my absolute favorite. This is going to be a little bit closer of a picture of spiders. So if you don't like it, don't look at it. So even the little disturbance on the edge can cause this spider to grab its prey out of the turret. And I've seen these in Briones and also in Reinhardt Redwood Regional Park. They're all over our park district. Anywhere where there's a nice kind of trail side that's hilly, keep your eyes out and you'll start to see these little turret cities. All right, so we went a little bit easy and then we got harder, so we're gonna go back and kind of mellow out a little bit. So this scat, if you look closely, what are some of the things that you see inside of this scat? Maybe you see some berries, maybe you might see some shells or different things like that. Would you say this is a pincher or a plopper? Maybe a little bit pinchy ploppy looking. So this animal might eat plants, and it also might eat animals. So it's an omnivore. So this scat can be found pretty commonly, and it can be filled with lots of different things depending on what it likes to eat, because this animal is an omnivore, but it also is what I like to call an opportunivore, because they will eat pretty much anything. Now, some of you might be thinking, I know what this is, but hold it in until we get to that slide. So this animal has really adapted well to our urban environment. So they aren't just in our parks, they're in your neighborhoods. They're all around. If you think you've seen one of these animals before, put your finger on your nose. All right. So these are the tracks of this animal. So you can see we've got the front and the back track, and they look almost like hands and fingers. And in fact, this animal can actually take its food and it'll wash it in streams sometimes. So they have very human-like fingers. And along stream banks is one of the places where it's really easy to find these tracks. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna listen to some sounds. All right, take all those clues. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a raccoon. If you guessed raccoon, go ahead and put up your raccoon mask. So this masked marauder, you've probably seen one of these before, maybe in your neighborhood. And that coloration that they have isn't just because they're a little bandit who likes to steal our food and our garbage, and they're quite handy, but it actually helps them disguise. Usually, when do you see raccoons? You usually see them during the dusk time. Yeah, when day is turning to night, kind of like right around this time. And so these animals have what's called disruptive coloration, and raccoons actually can kind of blend in with the shadows where they move around. Or sometimes you see them in broad daylight and they are eating your food. All right. You guys are doing an excellent job. We've already gotten a couple of different ones, but we've got a lot more to go. Now, when you're walking along the trail, you might see these piles of sticks, these big like cone-shaped piles. If you've seen one of these before, you might have wondered, what in the world is this pile of sticks? What made this? Now, the animal that makes these piles of sticks gathers them around, and they can be really old. They've actually dated some of these because this animal goes to the bathroom and it goes out the back, and I'll show you a picture of the scat in a moment because that's what I do. And they've actually dated the urine that's come out the back. It's made layers, and they've dated it and found some of these nests are actually over 50 years old. And this animal has different rooms, like a room with a kitchen and a room where it sleeps, and can also bring in things like bay leaves to help keep other pests and things out of their nests. So you often will find them on the ground, but sometimes they also can be found in trees as well. Some of the males or the younger of this animal build their nests high up in the trees. So this is the most obvious thing they leave behind. If you were to get closer to their nests, you might see scat, but I don't recommend that you get close, because another thing that likes to hang out by these nests are ticks, and ticks are not something that you want to get. So this animal builds a big nest. It likes to pack lots of different things into it, and it has lots of different rooms. And if you were to say, is that a pincher or a plopper? Kind of a little ploppy, yeah. All right, that's all the clues I'm going to give you. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is it's a rat, but a very special kind of rat. This is a dusky-footed wood rat. And a dusky-footed wood rat, I think, looks like a cuter version of the Norway rat, which we most commonly see in our cities and such. And you can see that the dusky-footed wood rat's actually pretty elusive. It's hard to find and see. I've never seen one, even though I've seen hundreds of dusky-footed wood rat nests. So you can see this is a nighttime shot of one. So these animals are, even if you sat and watched outside of their nests for quite a long time, you may just not even see one. But the next time you're on the trail, keep your eyes out for those piles of sticks. I know if you hike in Anthony Chabot and at Tilden and at Reinhardt Redwood and so many different parks, you will see these nests. All right. So if you're walking along the trail, you might see just a little pile of bones. You look a little bit closer, and there's some fur. Now, you might just think, maybe an animal died there. But then you see something that's formed a little bit more compactly. And this animal actually catches its prey with its talons and catches it and eats it whole. Bones and everything, bones and fur. And then it swallows it, and then it regurgitates it out. And this pellet ends up on the forest floor. And sometimes it ends up in barns. And there are certain places where you know that these animals live or like to hang out, because you'll see so many of these pellets left behind. Now, these animals have lots of different unique sounds, and that's another thing that we more typically hear than see, but they are definitely out there. So we're going to listen to a couple of different. All right, you ready? By Jove, I think I've got it. It is an owl. Excellent. So we heard 3 different owl calls there. We heard a barn owl, and then we also heard a great horned owl, and then we also heard a screech owl. Now here in our East Bay Regional Park District, we have so many different kinds of owls, and some naturalists actually lead owl walks, so you can keep your eyes out for those in the future. And owls are one of those things that if you see one, it feels really special. They're really beautiful creatures that are so well adapted to living at night. In fact, they have eyes that if our eyes were as big as theirs, they would be almost the size of grapefruits. Also, their wing feathers are silent. So they're soft and muffled and silent. And also their ears are not in the same spot. There's one a little bit higher than the other. So that way, when they listen, they can triangulate the sound and they can actually hear the sound and figure out where their prey is. So they're such incredible nighttime predators. So one of my favorite things to hear, and if I'm lucky enough to see out in our parks. All right, so we've got our owl. Next up. Now this one is a little bit more mysterious, and it might be something you haven't even noticed before. So you may pick up a stick on the forest floor, and it looks like it has little carvings in it. And these little carvings look kind of intricate, and sometimes you'll see a line right along where a lot of little pathways are coming out. And that line is where all of the eggs of this animal are laid. It's called a gallery. And when the gallery of eggs hatches, they all munch their way through the wood. And you can see the patterns are extraordinarily beautiful. On some of the big logs in our parks, you can actually see them. At the Anthony Chabot Family Campground, there are some logs right near the campfire center where you can see this animal's carvings. Except they're not really carvings, they're just tunnels where they have chewed through. So that's all I'm going to give you on that one. All right. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a bark beetle. So there are a lot of different species of bark beetles that are out there. And so it's kind of hard to tell because you don't always find the bark beetle, but this is one of those things when you pick up a stick, it's not just a stick. There's so many more things happening if you just slow down and look a little bit closely. You might have to peel the bark off of a stick on the ground to find these bark beetle tunnels, but never peel bark off of a living tree to look for this. And usually a living tree wouldn't have bark beetle tunnels because there wouldn't be much for them to munch on yet. All right. Y'all are doing a great job. We've got some more animals from all over the East Bay. More scat. So if you look at this scat, it's kind of furry looking. It's got some fur in it. Now, even before then, if you were to say, is it a pincher or a plopper? So you can see this is a stretched out kind of pinched looking scat. And it is filled with fur. So we know that this is a meat eater. This is a meat eater. Now, this animal, you can see, has left behind some tracks. Now, if you look closely at these tracks, you might notice that there are some claws. Now, I want you to think about if you have a pet animal, maybe you have a dog or maybe you have a cat. Which one of those animals can pull their claws in and which one can't? Now, if you look here, you can see that these claws cannot be pulled in. They do not have retractable claws. So if you think that this track comes from an animal related to a cat, I want you to meow like a cat. If you think it is from an animal related to a dog, I want you to bark like a dog. Yeah, so this is a track from an animal that is related to a dog. Cats can pull their claws in and dogs can't. So that's one of the easy ways that you can tell the difference between tracks. There's a lot of other different things as well, but that's one of the main ways. And you can also see there's a human track as well with some tires. Now, we're gonna listen to some sounds of this animal. And I want you to listen, they've got some different kinds of sounds. All right, by Jove, I think I've got it. It is a coyote. So here in the East Bay, we do not have wolves. We have coyote. And coyote are another one of those animals like raccoons that have been very, very good at capitalizing on urban development. They aren't too afraid to come into cities and things. Some of you might have heard some of the stories of them coming into San Francisco during shelter in place. And these coyotes are kind of like dogs. Your dogs might have actually responded to them. But the thing is that there's a couple differences. Dogs, when you think about their tracks, are kind of wandering all over the place. Coyotes have what's called perfect step, where they're stepping in the footstep of their paw print in front of them. They are common, and there's something, it's important when certain times of year when coyote are a little bit more active for you to keep your dogs on leash in order to keep them safe. An animal like a coyote is not interested in attacking you or me or any of our animals, but sometimes, you know, they when we're in their territory and their home, they sometimes can act a little bit different and we can sometimes feel afraid. But you don't need to be afraid of coyote. You can just respect them from a distance because they're not out there to hurt you. They're actually omnivores, and they eat things like rabbits, and they eat things like mice, and they'll even eat things like grasshoppers and berries. So they've got a really diverse diet depending on what is out there for them to eat. Now, this scat, when you look at this, pincher or plopper, it's a pincher. So we know that this animal eats meat. And if you look closely at this scat, it's a little bit different. There isn't any fur in there. Something that's almost scale-like. This animal likes to eat fish. Not only does it like to eat fish, it also likes to eat crayfish. So this animal spends its time in the water. It does come out on land and can move around on land, but it can and does spend most of its time in the water. Now we're gonna look at a track of this animal. Now, this actually shows a little bit of the webbed paw that it has that allows it to move through the water really easily and really well. And it's not super common to find these tracks. You're more likely to see the scat. I've actually found scat at Lake Temescal as I've been walking around because this animal lives there. Something you're more likely to see are kind of what are called slides, where these animals will slide down into the river or into the lake or the creek that they're hanging out in. So that's a pretty incredible thing to be able to see that. So we've actually got several parks that have this animal. So it's a water living animal, and we know it eats meat, and we know that it can come up on land. And another thing to know is that this animal, it is one that was gone for quite a long time from the Bay Area, and only in the last 10 years or so has started to make a comeback. And they're one of my favorites. All right, by Jove, I think I've got it. It is an otter. So this is a river otter, and we have river otters here in Lake Temescal, Lake Anza. They've showed up in Jewel Lake. They're all around, and they're really, really kind of elusive. Sometimes you'll see them and they'll hang around for a while. At Lake Temescal, they actually had pups a few years ago. And they are such incredible creatures. And you can watch for ripples on the water to look for them. But the best thing to do is really to look for the evidence, because it's pretty lucky to see these otters. Some naturalists I know have never seen the otters at Lake Temescal. I've been lucky to see them a few times. All right, so we've gone from land to water. We've gone from the sky down low. We've seen all sorts of different things. Let's see. Oh, I forgot about this. There's some of the otter pictures taken from Lake Temescal. They had cameras up. All right, so this track is a little bit different. It's a little bit shiny and it can be a little bit sticky. Not all tracks are footprints. Some of them are slime left behind. And this animal's slime is actually super unique because it's not a liquid or a solid, it's its own phase. So it's super sticky, and this animal can drop down from the forest heights in the redwoods, and it can drop down on a slime cord down to the forest floor. And these animals are one of the largest of their kind in the whole world. They're actually the second largest. And that's all I'm going to give you is that slimy clue. All right. Oh, more slime. All right. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a banana slug. So banana slugs, if you were to see their scat, because I like to talk about scat, it actually would come out of that hole on the side of its head. It's called a pneumostome, and it's a detritivore, which means it eats things that are already dead and decomposing, and they actually add nutrients to the soil. So they're a really important part of our habitat and adding to the health of our forest. Not to mention, I really like them. All right. Now, if you look high into the sky, you might see these trees that have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of holes in them. And these holes are stuffed full of acorns. And these acorns are put very carefully into these holes. And this animal isn't always actually going to go back for the acorn, but might actually go back for the grub or the insects that actually end up in the acorn, because they'll also eat them as well. These spots where there are thousands of acorns stored are called granaries. And the granaries can be food for so many of these different animals. So we're going to listen to this animal and the calls that they make. All right, so this is another one that's super common in a lot of our parks as well. All right, by Jove, I think I've got it. It is an acorn woodpecker. So you can see he's got that acorn right there in his beak. And you can see it's got that red cap, which distinguishes it. And you can see it's grabbing on with its talons to hold on and then putting those acorns into the granary. So acorn woodpeckers, like I said, are a pretty common one. You'll hear them and you'll see their really distinctive white and black feathers, and you'll see them flying around high up in the trees. And often they are in trees that are no longer alive because they're putting those acorns in. So it's a little bit easier to spot them than some of the ones hiding in the branches. All right, back to scat. So this scat, pincher or plopper? It's a pincher for sure. And it looks pretty similar to coyote scat, right? But there's a couple of different things that are gonna help you distinguish it from coyote scat. One of the things that can help distinguish it from coyote scat is sometimes it has scrapes around the scat. And when you think about your animals at home again, which one of your animals buries their scat? Your cat or your dog? Meow if you think your cat. Bark if you think your dog. Yeah, your cat is more likely to bury the scat. And this is scat from a cat. Now, to affirm that, you can also look at the tracks. And if you look, you can see there are no distinct marks of claws. So that tells us this is a cat. Now, if you're looking at the size of this, you can see for size comparison, we've got that compass right there. This track isn't that big. It's not too much bigger than your cat's track would be. So that should give you a hint to the size. We're gonna listen to some sounds, and the sounds, to be honest, sound a lot louder than you would expect. All right, by Jove, I think I've got it. It is a bobcat. So bobcats are one of those things that you don't actually see all that often, or at least I don't see them too often out in our East Bay Hills. But when you do, they're such a treat. They've got those pointy little ears, and then you can also see they have their short bob tail. They weigh about 25 pounds, so bigger than a house cat for sure, and you can see those big, strong, muscular legs. You can also see that the color of them really helps them camouflage into their surroundings. And a bobcat would eat something like a mouse or a rat. Also, they could eat rabbits as well. So something that is too small isn't interested in attacking you either. So bobcat's one of my favorite things to spot. All right. It's a pile of dirt. That's right. This one you might have seen in your yard or in your neighborhood. And maybe if you have a garden, you really don't like this one. And this you can actually really tell what animal it is, because you can see it actually has closed up its hole right there. And that tells you a little bit about this animal. If you're a gardener, you probably already know what this is. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a pocket gopher. So these pocket gophers are quite industrious. They can dig tunnels that connect all together, and you'll see them absolutely destroy lawns. They'll pull plants down and eat them, but you've got to hand it to them. They're pretty good at what they do. All right. Now this scat right here. I know this is a drawing and not a picture, but I want you to look at what that says. It says 9.5 inches. That's a big piece of scat. And is it a pincher or a plopper? Definitely a pincher. This is really big scat. Now this next picture is, I'm not gonna lie to you, kind of disgusting, but I've seen this animal's scat in real life and it's pretty gnarly. All right, here it is. I warned you. So that's a really big pile of scat. And so we know this is a meat eater. And we're gonna look at a track. So you can see how large this track really is. And if you look up close, claws or no claws? No claws. So that means this is a cat. This is a big cat. Now, this animal is out there and it is not commonly seen. In fact, this animal is more likely to see you than for you to see it. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But let's listen to some sounds of this animal. All right. By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a mountain lion. So this is one of those animals that a lot of people are really quite afraid of. But really, I like to tell people it's important for us to respect these animals, but not to be afraid of them. We should be understanding of what they are and know that nothing out there does want to hurt us. Mountain lions are prey specific, so they really are only interested in eating deer. And lucky for us, there's a lot of deer that are out there. One thing I always like to tell people is it's so incredible that we live in such an urban place. And in such an urban place, we still have habitat for mountain lions. Mountain lions that we hear of that we're a little bit afraid of are often juvenile teenagers out looking for new territory. And that's when they get into a little bit of trouble. Sounds familiar, right? So I always tell people mountain lions are not something to fear, but to revere. They're really special animals that we should feel really privileged, still call the East Bay home. One thing to say, if you ever do come across a mountain lion, and let me tell you, I've been living where there are mountain lions for over a dozen years, hiking at dawn and dusk when you might expect to see them, and I have never seen a mountain lion. But if you were, they say that you should act really big and loud, and if you can remember to sing a song, sing happy birthday, because you're not going to forget that, and sing really loud and be really big to scare that mountain lion away. But the important thing to know is mountain lions aren't interested in hurting you or me. We're in their homes, and so if you see one, just remember those instructions and to be respectful of their habitat. All right, so we've got one more animal that we are going to talk about. And this animal is unique because it leaves behind quite prominent trails wherever it goes. And these prominent trails are often along really beautiful corridors where there's lots of really incredible scenery and things to look at. Now, this animal has adapted in a way that it actually doesn't always like to eat its food raw. It actually will cook its food over something called fire often. They also have devised some different things to heat their food as well, some different methods. Now, for some reason, this animal leaves behind markings that are quite unique and honestly destructive to their environment. So we're not quite sure why they leave these markings. And our hope is that as they continue to evolve, they might stop doing this. Now, these animals can be found in all kinds of different climates, not just in the East Bay, but also in areas where there are snow. And they'll leave behind this kind of track, which we call a snow angel. And this snow angel is a pretty unique thing that these animals do. So this animal also leaves behind tracks that have 5 toes. And this track actually is actually from a female of this species, and this is actually a female size 10 of this species in track. Now you may be wondering, Morgan, you have shown us several pictures of scat this evening. Are you going to show us a picture of this scat? Well, let me tell you that this animal is very strange about its scat. It's very secretive. It's actually created an entire room dedicated to its scat and even has built a throne to its scat. All right. You ready? By Jove, I think I've got it. It is a human. That's right. It's all of you. So, human beings are one of those animals that we actually see their tracks all over the place. Human beings leave behind tracks of the good things that they've done, the plants that they've planted. They've also left behind tracks of beautiful buildings and different things. But unfortunately, they've also left behind tracks that aren't so great. Sometimes they've left behind tracks like trash. And sometimes they've left behind tracks like trails where there shouldn't be trails. So one thing I encourage you as a human being is to not leave behind any tracks, but just leave behind footsteps, and to take your memories with you and to leave things in the forest behind. Because even if you don't see the animals, they are out there and they are leaving behind signs for all of us. All we need to do is to slow down and to appreciate all of the amazing wildlife that is here in the East Bay Hills, in the East Bay lowlands, in the East Bay parks. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me today for our campfire program. I hope that you've learned a little bit about some of these animals, and I hope that you've learned that even though we might not see them, these animals are all around us. And even though we can't be together at a campfire program in a campground tonight, I hope that you feel together as part of the East Bay Regional Park District. So thank you so much, and I hope that you have a great evening. And it's time to eat s'mores.
Nocturnal time, wake up with a screech and use my night vision to see. Nocturnal time, time to leave the nest I built in this woodpecker's tree. So don't make too much racket or you'll scare away the rabbits, and the foxes will have nothing to eat. I know what I want to eat tonight: frogs and flies and fish and furry mice. I know what I want to eat tonight, Nocturnal time, bats are all around me, using echolocation to eat. Nocturnal time, foxes on the ground are out looking for some rabbit meat. So little creatures scatter or you'll be on the dinner platter at some carnivore's midnight treat. I know what I want to eat tonight: frogs and flies and fish and furry mice. I know what I want to eat tonight, Nocturnal time, I've got adaptations that help me fly without a sound. Nocturnal time, my silent wing feathers help me catch food that is on the ground. I use my sharp talons and my pointy curved beak to eviscerate the food I have found. I know what I want to eat tonight: frogs and flies and fish and furry mice. I know what I want to eat tonight, Have a good night, y'all.